In that video, we're going to talk about two important terms, convergence and divergence. What does converge and diverge means? It's a very important thing to understand, and it's also very easy to understand. Let's look at this sequence. An equals 2 times n. And let's examine its numbers. What are going to be in this sequence? A1, we just plug 1 instead of n, it's going to be 2. A2 will be 4, A sub 3 will be 6, A sub 4 will be 8, and it goes like this. If we take a look at the numbers, we can see that the numbers are getting bigger and bigger. And if we plug a big number, let's say 1 million, the number will be big. It's going to be 2 millions. And if we theoretically plug in infinity, the number will be very big. It will also equals infinity. So if the numbers in the series are growing up in that way that we can see in our eyes, at that point it's enough to see with our eyes. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to find if the sequences converge or diverge. But at that point, what I'm trying to say is when I see with my eyes that the numbers are getting bigger and can reach infinity, I say that the series is diverged. Here we can see a divergence. Diverge. So I can say an is diverged. It means the limit doesn't exist. D and E will also call it in this way. We're going to talk about limits sooner. I'm sorry I just mentioned this word. Doesn't matter at that point. We can say the an diverge because it reaches an infinite number and not a finite number, and we will call it in the next chapters D and E. Doesn't exist. The limit doesn't exist. So sequence 2n, divergence. Let's take a look at another example, another series, sequence, sorry. Let's take this sequence, for example. The n equals 1 over n. The first number will be 1, the second number will be half, 1/3, 1 over 4, 1 over 5, and goes like this. As we can see, the numbers getting smaller and smaller, and they all reaches very small number. I can see intuitively at that point. It's not a mathematical proof, but I can see with my eyes that the numbers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and theoretically, if I will reach the less number in the sequence, I will reach 0. So if the sequence reaches finite number, like in this case is 0, we say the sequence is converged. So 1 over n is converged. It's not when I talk about convergence, it's not have to be only 0. It can be any number. It can be positive number. It can be irrational number. Any type of number. So if the number is finite, let's say if a sequence reaches finite number of any type, we say that the sequence is converging to that number. In this case, sequence 1 over n is converging to 0. In the next videos, we will understand why it's 0, because it can be any small number. Why 0? At that point, just understand the topic intuitively. Let's take another series. 2 plus 1 divided by n. Sequence, I'm sorry, not series, sequence. Let's call it C over n, C sub n. If we plug number, we will see that the first number is 3, the second number is 3.5, 3 1/3, and goes like this. I'm sorry, it's not 3, it's 2.5, 2 1/3, it's my mistake. 2.5, 2 1/3, 2 and 1 over 5, and goes like this. As we can see intuitively, as bigger the n, the smaller this fraction. And this sequence always reaching 2 plus small number. It can be 1.5, it can be half, third, fourth. It's getting to be very small. So what does it mean? That I can see intuitively at this point, of course, that this sequence is converging to number 2. So sequence Cn2 plus 1 over n is converging to number 2. So let's summarize all we learned in this video. Convergence and divergence, it's very simple topics, but very important. We are talking about what happened when n is going to be very big, when n is reaching infinity. Convergence and divergence, it's terms that we're talking about them only when n is going to a very big number or reaches infinity. When n reaches infinity, and we can see that the numbers are blocked, let's say blocked by some number, like in this case it was 2, it was 3, in this case it was by 1, we say that the series is converging. But if the numbers are getting very bigger and reaches infinity or negative infinity, minus infinity, we say that the sequence is divergent.